An unfinished ship. A hull without funnels, caged in her slipway by a steel gantry above and a timber cradle below. Beyond her stern, under the 4 impotent blossoms of her exposed propellers, the River Clyde flowed green in unexpected sunshine. From keel to waterline, she was rust red, and above that, specially painted for the launch, she was white as a bride. White made for better newspaper pictures. After the flashbulbs have popped, after she has been moored lonely in the river for her fitting out, men will stand on planks hung down her sides on thick ropes and paint the plates and rivets of her hull glossy black. Her 2 funnels will be hoisted up, bolted down, lashed in place. Her decks will be planked in teak, her corridors and salons paneled in mahogany and walnut and oak. There will be sofas and settees and chaises, beds and bathtubs, seascapes in gilded frames, gods and goddesses in bronze and alabaster. The first-class china will be gilt-edged, patterned with gold anchors, the emblem of L&O lines. For second class, blue anchors, blue edging. Blue, the line's color. Third class will make do with plain white crockery, and the crew with tin. Boxcars will arrive full of crystal and silver and porcelain, damask and velvet. Cranes will hoist aboard 3 pianos, dangling in nets like stiff-legged beasts. A grove of potted palms will be wheeled up the gangway. Chandeliers will be hung, deck chairs hinged like alligator jaws will be stacked. Eventually, the first load of coal will be poured in through apertures low in the hull, down into bunkers below the waterline, far from the finery. The first fire will be lit deep in her furnaces. But on the day of her launch, she was still only a shell, a bare and comfortless wedge of steel. A crowd jostled in her shadow, ship workers in rowdy clumps, Glaswegian families out for the spectacle, urchin boys peddling newspapers and sandwiches. A brilliantly blue sky flew overhead like a pennant. In this city of fog and soot, such a sky could only be a good omen. A brass band played. Mrs. Lloyd Pfeiffer, Matilda, wife of the ship's new American owner, stood on a platform edged with blue and white bunting, a bottle of scotch tucked under her arm. "Shouldn't it be champagne?" she had asked her husband. "Not in Glasgow," he'd said. Matilda was to break the bottle against the ship, christening it with the name she could scarcely bear to think of. She was impatient for the cathartic shattering of glass, for her task to be done. But now she could only wait. There was some kind of delay. Lloyd fidgeted, making occasional comments to the naval architect, who appeared rigid with anxiety. A few unhappy Englishmen in bowler hats milled around the platform, and a pair of Scotsmen from the shipbuilding firm, and several other men she couldn't identify. The ship had already been half-built when L&O Lines, founded in New York by Lloyd's father, Ernst, in 1857, and inherited by Lloyd in 1906, acquired the failing English line that had commissioned it. Commissioned her, Lloyd was always correcting, but to Matilda, ships would always be its. The sheathing had been underway when money ran out, and was resumed once Lloyd's dollars were converted to sterling, then steel. The men in bowler hats, up from London, remarking morosely among themselves about the glorious weather, had conceived of the ship, argued over its blueprints, chosen a sensible name that Lloyd had disregarded.